Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to everyone, to our respected speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Chern, fellow colleagues, professors, Associate Professor, doctors, brothers and sisters. Welcome to today's CPD webinar organized by the Professional Development Unit, PDU, of the Center for Professional Development, CPD, International Islamic University, Malaysia. I am Dr. Muhammad Ashraf bin Rostam, the Deputy Director for this unit, PDU, for the CPD. Before we begin our session, let us seek blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for today's program to run smoothly and benefit us all. I would like to invite everyone to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. I'd like to send the regards from Professor Dr. Mira Kartiwi, the Director of CPD. Usually in our seminars, our webinars, she will introduce and she will start with the welcoming remarks. But unfortunately, this morning she messaged me that she's unwell, and she sends her regards to Dr. Chern as well as everyone here. So let's pray that she gets well soon, inshallah. So let me, on her behalf and as well as CPD, Center for Professional Development, allow me to start with a welcoming remark. So we're delighted to have every one of us today to join this webinar where we explore the journey of showcasing your academic excellence through a comprehensive portfolio. In Malaysia, prestigious awards like the Anugerah Akademik Negara AAN and Anugerah YB Menteri Pendidikan Tinggi, Reka Bentuk Kurikulum dan Penyampaian Inovatif (AKRI) recognizes and celebrates academic excellence and innovative curriculum design. Today, we are especially honored to have with us Dr. Chern. Dr. is a distinguished academic known for her remarkable contributions to both teaching and research. With numerous accolades and a wealth of experience in the academic community, Dr. will share her journey, insights, and practical strategies to help us craft a portfolio that would reflect your growth and achievements. We look forward to an engaging and inspiring session that will empower you to elevate your academic journey. Before I pass the session over to Dr. Allow me to share a brief biography to introduce her background. Associate Professor Dr. Chern, his dedication and passion are focused on molecular oncology with a commitment to advancing the field through innovative research and industry partnerships. She earned her bachelor's degree, first-class honors in biotechnology from Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, and went on to complete her Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Oncology at the University of Oxford in the United Kingdom. Dr. further honed her expertise as a postdoctoral fellow at Karolinska Institute, Sweden. Dr. has been a lecturer at University Malaysia since 2013. She is currently a consultant for novel therapeutic projects, working with both local industries and international partners. Her work in therapeutics has earned her numerous prestigious accolades, including the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science National Fellowship in 2015, Women of the Future Awards, Southeast Asia, the Malaysian National Young Scientist Award in 2018. She was also honored with the Promising Academician Award and Excellent Service Award from the Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education in 2019, as well as the British Council Study UK Alumni Award for her professional achievement category, and the Minds Woman Scientist Award in 2020. Dr. commitment to advancing the scientific community was further recognized with the Singapore Academy's ASEAN Fellowship from the Singapore National Research Foundation, which enabled her to further her expertise in drug discovery at A-Star Singapore. Her multidisciplinary research spans drug discovery, cancer-targeted therapies, and bioengineering solutions, where she actively collaborates with industry leaders. With 2 granted patents in Malaysia for small molecule inhibitors targeting anti-cancer and anti-angiogenesis pathways Her work has the potential to revolutionize cancer treatment. As a member of the Global Young Academy, Dr. Un is a strong advocate for female empowerment. Her ongoing research continues to bridge the gap between academia and industry to transform cancer therapy through innovative and effective therapeutic strategies. That is a remarkable biography, Dr. Un, and we are grateful to have you together with us. And with that, I would like to pass the session over to you. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ashraf Rostam. Is there an echo? Sorry about that. So I just disabled the speaker on my laptop, so hopefully there's no echo, but you can hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. So first of all, I would like to just share my screen first. So it says that my internet connection is not very stable, but everything is good, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
all good.
great. Great. So thank you again for the kind invitation and the introduction. I'm indeed very humbled to be here this morning to share a little bit about myself and what makes me me and the academician that I am. Can you see my screen? Can I check if you can?
Yep.
See my
Good.
screen. Okay. So I'll be delivering my talk in English because I understand that there may be an international audience here. And I'm thankful that I'm actually able to be sharing my experience with all of you today. So I would just like to give a little bit of introduction about myself. So I'm very different in terms of, when people look at a scientist, people say, oh, a scientist is supposed to dress a certain way. A scientist is supposed to be wearing lab coat, go to the lab. I still remember because I love to express myself through clothes and through how I look. For me, self-care is so important. So with that, I don't really like to fit in a box, not just in terms of what I wear, but also in terms of how I carry myself. It's about just being you and being just a unique yourself. And that's what I love to embrace about myself. So I'm a molecular oncologist. I devote my life to finding new treatments for cancer, particularly looking at the DNA and the protein and see which of the DNA are faulty or the proteins are being overexpressed in cancer, and then find new treatments that can actually target these proteins to bring the level down and then contribute to the therapeutic option of oncology. And I'm a mother of two. I have two young kids with me. I enjoy going to the gym, and I also enjoy volunteering and working with less privileged communities. So I have my own program and outreach with the underprivileged, for example, the orphans and those OKU, orang kurang upaya, the special need kids, as well as I also work with sick people in the hospitals when I have time. I do volunteer myself to help them. Reason being, I feel that beyond the lab, there is also something that we can contribute to society, and I do get a lot of encouragement when I work with these people because they actually keep me grounded, and they remind me of my purpose doing my work, and they help me to be humble, especially when we are PhD holders. Most of us think that we are a certain level above the others, but it's very important that we remain humble and know that we're just part of society, giving back to them whenever we can. So as Dr. Muhammad has already introduced, I will not talk too much about this, but just to say that I have been abroad for my training as well as my PhD, but I've also been a local student before. So why I say this is because I realized that being a local student and having the opportunity to study abroad has really shifted my mindset on education and teaching. And that is what my whole talk will be all about. And after I came back to Malaysia, after my postdoctoral training, I received a few fellowships to continue to train abroad and I obviously
Hey
taught
guys,
some of the
okay.
hello. Okay, so I obviously taught.
Sorry, Dr. Un, I think you accidentally muted your mic just now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I think yeah. Somebody might have muted everyone just now because somebody interfered. So,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. Now you're good. Yeah.
Okay, so I just like to share about what shapes me as an educator that I am today. And I think a lot of us can agree that who we are today, we are very much shaped by how we are brought up, our experiences in the past, right? So I don't know how many of you can actually empathize with the points that I've put down here, but I'm just like any one of you, right? Sorry here. So my journey actually began with painful experiences that actually fueled my desire to be better, to be a better parent, to be a better teacher, to be a better colleague in so many ways. Because I am sure many of us growing up, we have experienced public humiliation in class, not just in class, as we grow older we go to university, we go for interviews, whether it's scholarship interview or job interview, it's so common, or maybe it is accepted as a norm, which I feel that it should not, where you have the teachers or the professor calling you out in front of everyone and making hurtful comments and shame you in the public. And I have been through that, and I knew that I didn't like it and I wanted it to be different. And also being overseas and especially to the UK, I had a very, very good supervisor. And he actually I think he's a person who shaped me into the scientist that I am today. Growing up and also, being at universities, whenever we go for lectures, whenever we go for classes, we always think that, studies is so important. We must excel in our exam and blah, blah. Everything is so academic centric. But when I went to the UK, I learned that, in Oxford, it's not just about studying hard. They also play very hard. And for them, to have a balance in your life and your academic is so important. I still remember I wanted to move very close to my lab last time, and I told my professor, oh, after my first year, I want to move out of the college and I want to move close to the hospital so that I can go to the hospital every day to do my experiments and go home. And he said, Chern, no, you don't have to, because in Oxford, I want you to experience the Oxford life, to be part of a college life, to have fun, to join the other postgraduate students, meet up, networking, talk, discuss science in a informal setting, and also just having fun for them partying so hard and then they work so hard the next day in the lab, things like that. And he said, don't move, stay in the college. And when it's time to move, maybe in the second, third year, you can do it. And that we would have never gotten this sort of advice from any of our local teachers or educators. I'm quite sure about it. And so that kind of inspired me as like, oh, there's more to this than just going to the lab every day and doing your experiments just to get a PhD. So I spent a lot of my time also mingling with people, international students, and I also volunteered in mentally disabled camps to help the orang kurang or paya or the special needs. So it is things like that that I learned along the way. And also there was always this constant drive for perfection, especially in the ASEAN setting, where when you get 90 and then your parents say, oh, it's not good enough, you have to get 100. What happened to the 10%, things like that. And growing up, we kind of think that it is normal. And then I had to learn that we should not be striving for perfection. We should actually be striving for, what is that? We should be striving for advancement, the improvement that we see every day. That is more important than striking a perfection. Okay. And then with that came the feeling of never being good enough, because 90% you lost the 10%. Where did it go? And then you're always benchmark against your friends. And, you always feel like you're never good enough. And this carries on, I'm sure, until our work life, even in the university. So often we feel this way because of how the culture is like, whether it is a bigger culture as in Asian culture, or whether it's a work culture that is common to a particular institution. I'm sure many of us have been through that. And then there's also this lack of acknowledgement, where I realized that growing up, we take a lot of things for granted. If we get an A, our parents would just think, okay, it's just an A, next time do better, A plus perhaps, whereas in the Western culture, before I go to that, I would just like to say that I'm married to a German. So that actually taught me a lot about self-reflection and the differences between the Western culture and the Asian culture, and how we are brought up so differently. But we have to embrace ourselves. There's always pros and cons in both cultures. So in that culture, I remember my husband told me that, with a little achievements that they got in school, the parents are always so proud of them. I say, oh, I'm so proud of you, and then they acknowledge every single effort that, the kids put in. And for us, it's almost like it's been taken for granted that you have to do a certain thing and you must. And because this is authoritative, it comes from an authority, it can be quite authoritative that we have to say yes, no matter what, And then there's also this international exposure, which I've just shared, is a new perspectives of being abroad to study and also being married to a German. And then also having kids would definitely test your patience. For a lot of parents, I'm sure you can understand this. Learning from the endless testing of patience and understanding how to be flexible, because every kid is so different, right? And when we treat our students, we have to be so careful, because sometimes if you're not careful with what we say, we can easily just demotivate them. And this is what we don't want to do, right? So we have to learn to treat every student as individuals and not as an overall class, okay? And so these are my life philosophies, basically driven by my experiences. And I learned to be grateful for everything, for every small things, mainly because coming out to work as a scientist in USM, I was never really given a lot to start off with. I have to build my own lab from scratch. I have to get freebies, in return for reviews and stuff like that. And then I work with the underprivileged communities, and then I learned that, they're very thankful for every small thing that we actually take for granted. And I learned that I should not be that. So I'm always grateful for everything, every opportunity that come by. And my second philosophy is that if you never try, you'll never know. Mainly because I know that sometimes we are so afraid to try because we're afraid that we fail. But if we look at how failure is actually an essential step towards success, we know that no matter what, we always need to try and give our best, because if not, you'll be looking back and you'll be regretting that you've never tried it. At least you tried and you know it doesn't work. You can be very contented and be very proud of yourself that you have given your best. Okay. And the third is, I don't set out to be different. I just want to embrace my individuality and the unique self that I am. Should try not to care about what people think and what people say, because I know this is also very much integral to our Asian culture, where people talk about one another. But as a scientist or as an educator, we have to be firm with what we think and what we believe, and then we work towards that. So that is what that would actually hold a foundation to who you are as a person. So I have shared just now. So what makes you, your unique self? What you know is one thing, your knowledge, what you currently know. Do you want to progress to learn something different out of your comfort zone? I recently just did that. To be honest, I have been an academic my whole life, And just 3 years ago, I received a fellowship from Singapore, and I purposely chose to go for industry attachment. I did not choose to take an academic attachment because I've been through that. I wanted to learn about how industry people learn, how to translate a discovery and bring it to the bedside. And for me, it was very challenging. Firstly, because I was already instantly put in a box at that time. I still remember with a fellowship in hand, the people at industry, they told me, oh, Chern, you know what? You have got years of academic experience, but you have zero industry experience. For that, we put you as entry level. And how do you feel when you hear that when you've got 10 years of academic and research experience and all these accolades under your belt? But the moment you step out of Malaysia, you go elsewhere, they actually don't really support you in terms of, I feel that they do look down on us as Malaysians in general because they always think that they are better. Industry and academic, some of us, we are able to appreciate the differences and we know that we need to work together. But for some, they literally just say academic experience. Nah, it means zero experience. But I put my pride aside and I said, you said I have zero industry experience. I am now taking this fellowship and I'm going to learn from you and try to be adaptable and see why you are so different. Why do you think you're so different? And to be honest, yes, they are very different. I was really out of my comfort zone, learning a lot of new things, and there were a lot of hardships because they think indeed very differently. For them, industry is all about money making. For us, it's all about science, and our KPI is mainly driven by papers. And for them, papers is not the KPI. It's about generating money, market needs. Everything changes so fast. My projects were literally changing for every 3 months. It depends on the market, it depends on the competitor and stuff like that. So I learned. It was hard, but I learned. So now, after 2 years, I completed my fellowship and I look back and I told myself I have no regrets doing this despite the insult and the offense that they threw at me at the very beginning, and then they put me in a box already. But it enriched my experience. Now I'm able to see things from a lot of different perspectives. And to be honest, after my fellowship, I came back, I got a lot more industry offer to work with them, to be consultant, to help them move their projects, because these people now, they actually they embrace your unique abilities to have the two experiences, which previously I only had one. So, you have to be adaptable and you have to be agile in your learning because that is how you grow. And then your life motto and your philosophies. And lastly, your influence. How are you going to use all of this to make an influence, a positive influence on society? So now my next question to you is, are you one who try very hard to blend in, or are you one who embrace your unique self? Because you know that you have a lot to offer to the world, but we should not actually constrain our abilities and our potential just because we are so afraid to be different. Okay, because you are so unique that you have the ability to change the world, but you have to break out of that stereotype. Okay. And then we talked about all these anugerah, all the awards that I have received. And I basically think that it is because I stuck to who I was as a person and as a scientist and as an educator. I try not to be swayed by opinions, but based on science. Everything has to be driven based on science and what I believe as a person. Okay, so just basically for AAN, right? And they want to see a holistic educator and scientist. And your research is one thing, but your teaching, how you make a difference or an impact in your teaching really matters. So during my time when I applied for this award, it was no longer a thick portfolio, but it was a lot that was online, and we got a lot of help from the university to actually put together still the appendix and all the paperwork that is needed. So we don't really have like an active portfolio in USM because we are more of a research institution, but we did prepare portfolios when needed for evaluation. Okay. So before I go next, I would just like to hear from you why you think academic visibility is important. Would anyone like to give a try?
For career growth, Doctor?
Yes, for your individual career growth, that is very true. How about for the university itself? What would IIUM get if one of the staff wins prestigious awards like the AAM or L'Oreal? What do you think?
Public confidence.
Public confidence, very good. Yes, very good. Public confidence and branding. Branding is so important for every institution, right? That is why I think a lot of efforts have been put in for your university to try to encourage you to apply for awards and all that, not just for individual growth, but also for the university visibility. When you have scientists, when you have educators that win certain awards, this can actually increase the public confidence that like you say, and also attract funding, foster collaborations, all these are branding, right? Branding. But also, personal branding is very, very important. We have to think about it. I think I've learned about this as I grow in my career because I never really had a mentor back in US. And when I came back from my PhD, I had to build everything from scratch. I know some people are very lucky that they got mentor, to actually kickstart their career, providing them things. I had to actually grow everything and every money that I can save, I would save and try to build my own lab. And then I realized along the way, personal branding is important. This is where people will come to you and say, I have confidence in what you do, your science. So it's important that you publish well. I know that the universities in general in Malaysia, yeah, we are always talking about KPI that is based on numbers, quantity, not so much as quality, but I can tell you that quality is so important. I've always had my stand that, okay, I must publish in Q1 and Q2 whenever I can. Q3, I will give it to you as part of a KPI to fulfill a certain things. Sometimes the students need it in order to go from one year to another year, to get the funding approved and things like that. But if we can, it's always important to strive for quality, because this will give you your personal branding. This will be when people come to you and say, hey, you know what? I've read about you. You've got so many awards and all this, and you publish well. We want to work with you. And this is what I had to learn the hard way and realize this. Personal branding is important. How you craft your career, yourself as an educator, as a scientist. Go for your training whenever you can. Build yourself, your niche. Your niche is so important because it establishes credibility and your expertise in the area. And people will come to you and say, when I need help, this is the person to go to. Okay. And then when you have your personal branding, this is when you can start to build influence and advocacy. For me, it's a lot about female empowerment, only because growing up, I came from a very traditional family. And then when I went overseas, I saw a lot of things that really, really, amazed me in terms of emancipation of women, how strong women are, especially in Sweden where I was, it's actually almost equal stand, and they are offended when you actually offer a woman, can I help you carry your groceries, please? And a woman would stare at you and say, no, I can do it myself. You don't really see these kind of things here in Asia, right? So then personal branding. It's about then how the media perceive you. They can destroy you, but they can also put you in certain light that they wish to paint you, right? So be very careful with social media. I was asked, why don't you have an active social media? It actually helps you. A lot of people actually use social media to brand themselves and all that. For me, I prefer to stay away from that, and I prefer to just focus on my publications. If people really, really appreciate my science, they would just look at my publications and look at me as a scientist rather than my social media standing and all these things, because I feel that I'm a very private person and I do not really want to share a lot. But on the other hand, people tell me that, oh, this is where you lose out because the social media can do a lot for your career as well. So I think it's all just personal preference. Okay. And my teaching pedagogy has always been inquiry-based learning. And this is very much inspired by my studies in the UK, in Oxford. Basically, I was just like any other Asian student, when my teachers or my lecturer in UKM asked questions, I would just answer. I would be so terrified to just raise up my hand and ask questions. And even to answer, I'll be so careful because of all the bad experience I've shared with you. But in the UK, it was so different. I had a French postdoc, a mentor who was so good, and he told me, he said, you know what, if you don't agree with what I tell you, you have to tell me. You don't always have to say yes, yes. And I can see in your eyes that you don't agree, but you're only telling me yes. And then I had to explain to him how I was brought up and how our culture is like. And I was living with international students, and although there were certain things that I was not comfortable with, I just say yes, 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 always yes, yes, yes. And then there was one time my good friend actually told me off. She said, Chern, I know that you don't agree with me. Why do you say yes? So this is when I realized that no, you have a voice, you have the power to say no. You have to learn to say no, when you're not comfortable with something. You have to learn to question things. You don't just accept things for what they are. So then it kind of shapes me to who I am, and I kind of bring this into my teaching pedagogy, and I embrace this when I teach people, my teach students or my postgraduate students. Basically, I insert a little bit of this into my teaching style. Before we go further, I just want to share this brain teaser with you and kind of get your answer. Can you hear? Are you able to hear?
No.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes, you're still sharing.
Okay, let me see. Now? Okay, listen.
Here's a brain test.
Yep. Now we can.
The wind is blowing to the west.
I think you unmuted the phone.
Yes, but that's because I turned on the brain teaser. Can you hear?
Yeah, now we can hear, but when you switched off or you muted the phone, we lost the audio.
Oh, so it's not sharing my audio on
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, because I think that one comes from the laptop you're using to capture.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can you hear now?
A rooster is on the roof of
Yes.
a barn. The wind is blowing to the west at 10 miles per hour. The rooster lays an egg. Which direction?
It's a bit of an echo, but I think yeah, but it's still bearable. Yeah, I think it should be all right.
Okay. Should I play the brain teaser again?
Yeah. So I think if this, yeah, we can. I think it's bearable even though the echo.
Okay, I've only got 3 videos. Please put up with it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Somebody says echo sound not clear. What if you unmute? Sorry. Yeah. What if you unmute the laptop? What would happen if you unmute that one and then you mute the phone? What will happen? Because if the problem is with your microphone, the
Is this good?
internal audio should be all right.
The wind is blowing to the west at 10 miles per hour. The rooster lays an egg. Which direction does the egg blow? If you want, you can pause the video.
Yeah, it's a bit slow. but we can actually listen here
Answer,
without the
there
echo.
is no egg.
Okay.
Rooster didn't lay one because roosters are male. Here's a brain teaser. A rooster is on the roof of a barn facing east.
Is the volume on max?
West at 10 miles per hour. The rooster
I'm not so sure if I am right. Okay, try this.
So there's the volume.
Here's a brain teaser.
Oh.
A rooster is on the roof of a barn facing east. The wind is blowing to the west at 10 miles per hour. The rooster lays an egg. Which direction does the egg roll? If you want, you can pause the video.
So what's your brain a little bit in the morning?
So should we answer?
Yes.
So it's asking just now where the egg would go, right? So yep, everyone, you can answer and post your feedback in the comment section. So whether it will fall to the right or to the left. Okay. Anyone wants to try?
Cannot see the video, doctor.
Oh, someone wants to see the video. Yeah, because just now when the
And think
sound
it
was okay,
over.
the video itself was a bit lagging. So it's okay to play. I think everyone's interested. Yeah. Yeah, play again. Yeah.
Here's a brain teaser. A rooster is on the roof of a barn facing east. The wind is blowing to the west at 10 miles per hour. The rooster lays an egg. Which direction does the egg roll?
Okay, so we've got some answers. Can you read the Dr. Un? Are you reading the answers, or would you want me to read it?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So I'm so proud that you have some staff who are actually really thinking. Roosters don't lay eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can pause the video and think it over. The answer, there is.
Oh, sorry. Should I play again? Am I still sharing? Am I still sharing?
You're still sharing? Yep.
One because they're male. Did you get it right? Let's pick this apart and see why many people have difficulty with this brain teaser and so many others. First, it's easy to overlook details or accept them without questioning. In this brain teaser, the answer could be found in the second word, rooster. In hindsight, we realize it's impossible for roosters to lay eggs, but it's easy to overlook when it's mentioned casually in the brain teaser. Another process at work in this brain teaser is misdirection. There were several details included that we may have paid too much attention to. The fact that the rooster was facing east and that the wind was blowing west at 10 miles per hour. In the end, these details had nothing to do with the actual answer, but because they seemed important in the context of the brain teaser, they directed us away from the relevant information. The same techniques used to solve brain teasers can also be applied to real-world situations. When you're trying to figure something out, it's important to analyze the information that's available to you. Are there any key details I may be missing? Am I being misled by something? Could I be thinking about this in another way? Brain teasers not only help to keep your mind sharp, but they can help improve your critical thinking skills as well. Let's finish things off with another brain teaser. You have a single match and are in a dark room with a candle, an oil lamp, and a gas stove. Which do you light first?
What's the answer?
What's the answer?
So the question was, which do you light first, right? That was the question. Okay. Candle, somebody started the answers. Gas stove, candle, candle match. Okay, that's out of the box.
Is actually correct. The match.
The answer, the match.
Mm.
So you see,
It's about thinking out of the box. Okay, let me link this. Can you hear me now?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, sorry. So it's about thinking out of the box, right? Which I've mentioned just now. So many of us, I guess, growing up, we never really question a lot of things. We will just ask one question and then we just, oh, okay. So the eggs should either go left or right, depending on the wind. And then we try to work out, if the wind is strong or, how heavy the egg is. And then we just fail to realize that, oh, rooster doesn't lay eggs. But I'm so proud of you that you have actually got people who actually thought about that. And then the second question is about what do you light up first? It's a match, it's just what is in front of you, but you just don't see. So this is all part of critical thinking, and it's all about questioning things. Okay, so these are all very relevant quotes in our life as an educator. Okay, the best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't really tell you what to see. You do realize that in our education system, we always spoon feed the students. And as a student, we were also once spoon fed. Teachers will be writing notes on the board, and then we'll be copying everything word for word. And then in the examination, we get asked these questions, and then we just vomit everything out, whatever we can keep in our small brain, we just vomit everything out. And then we forget. Instead of really understanding why, what, how, why do you say this, question. So curiosity is a very powerful force. And if you just tell someone where to look and let them observe, they will become more interested. They'll be like, oh, look at the tree over there. What tree? Which tree? There's so many trees there. Which one are you talking about? So what do you see? The leaves, and then they can tell you. And then it's more engaging because it kind of like pick their brain. But I just tell them, look at the green, the tree with the green leaves. The leaves are big, small, and it's just that, so what, So there's no more curiosity. And then so that brings me to the difference between the Western and the Eastern education. I'm not saying that either one of it is bad or good. It's just that they both have their pros and cons. And I see this so clearly, to be honest, just because I'm married to a Western husband. I see in the way we educate our kids and what we put our kids through. And I remember that, now my kids are like 8 years old, but when they were 5 years old in kindergarten, they already studied mathematics, learned basic addition and all that. So when my daughter went to Germany and she saw a blackboard and she thought it was so cool to be like a teacher, so she started taking out the chalk and then she started drawing and writing equations. And the people around us were like, what? How old is she? I said, 5. She can do equation. She learned mathematics in school. I said, yes. And then they said, well, in Germany, they only play. They go out, explore the nature. They learn through play. So what I saw when I was in Sweden, all these cute little young ones, they go out to the forest, because in Europe, the forests are very pleasant. It's a place where they like to go out and play and learn about nature. And you see them holding hands together. Look at that flower. What do you see? Geometry? Learn. What is geometry? And so they learn through observation and questioning things. And I still remember when I was in Singapore, the last 2 years, we had to find a school for our kids. At that time, they were still toddlers. And my husband came to me one day and said, look, I found a school. It's called the Preschool of Multiple Intelligence. And what's the best part of it? It has a big playground and they don't have to wear uniform. And I just looked at him and I said, no way I want to send the kids to this kind of school, because for me, being educated this way, I said, I think they need discipline. I think they need books. If you tell me they are having big playgrounds and play all the time and not wearing uniform, I'll be so concerned. How would they be like, transitioning into teenager, from primary to secondary, I was just so terrified. And I just said, no, I will hold my ground, because as long as we are in the Eastern countries, we will do as the Eastern people do. So it's different if, they plan to go overseas next time, they will think about it. But that just goes to show how different we are in terms of our education. So in the Western culture, they were actually taught to think from very, very young age. I still remember when I went to the UK to do my PhD, and I saw so many of my friends, they were so good at speaking, so confident. Even if they didn't know the answer, they were just able to throw an answer, and they just look so confident that you'd be like, so, okay, I can buy that. But I was not able to do that. And I've always wanted to be able to do that. It's just that I couldn't, because we were just brought up to just take it as it is. Right? So I think going forward is important for us to teach the next generation to just learn to think more, rather than to just spoon feed them and give them answers or just tell them what to do. Give them more autonomy in their learning. So the next quote is, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. But if you involve me, I will learn. So it's all about passive learning and active learning. And in our case, I think now we are all mostly transitioning into active learning, where we will involve the students and we collaborate with people. We apply concepts in real world. Like I said, in Sweden, the kids go out to the jungle, to the forest. They don't have jungle, to the forest. They go see the nature, and then they'll all learn through real world scenarios. And we are just sitting at our desk with lots of textbooks and activity books and drawing and all that. They were not so good at articulating ourselves and our feelings and our emotions, right? And the next one I would like to say and emphasize is, it is okay to make mistakes. This is very important, because we need to see mistakes as valuable part of learning process, because this will then let the students feel that, okay, I don't have to always be perfect. I don't always have to feel like I'm never good enough. And you don't have to belittle me if I say something that is wrong. They will grow up to be more confident, and you will see that, confident and independent, and they are more motivated if you don't always point out the mistakes. If we see mistakes, we can, but we have to, butter and jam a little bit, just to make it sound nice. I appreciate that you put in the effort. This is good that you learn it this way. You tell me this. Why do you think this is the answer? But in this case, this question meant this. So the answer is like this, So we have to learn to actually kind of word our comments properly, so that we don't demotivate the students. And the next is to make learning relevant, to help students see how the material connects with their lives, their interests, and the ambitions, the future goals. Show them the real world application of what they're learning. Share stories along the way. Like I'm teaching anatomy to postgraduates. Okay, someone wrote. Okay, so I'm actually teaching anatomy and physiology to postgraduate students, and they are from physics school. So you can imagine it's such a dry subject, and I don't really know how I can actually make them understand without having the dummy model. Or most of them actually have physics background with no biology background. So I had to think very hard how to do that. So I'll be sharing very layman stories. The best part about teaching is, if you think that is a very difficult topic, you'll be wondering, how do I actually explain to my grandmother or my grandfather what this is? And if you think along that line, make it as simple as possible, then you'll be able to start off with a very difficult concept and make this easy to understand for your students. Okay? So I also have another video to share. Let me see if I can do it right.
Is there audio? Are we expecting to hear the audio, or there's no audio for this video?
Watch as this professor explains life's most important philosophy. The ending is truly eye-opening. Is it jar full? Is it full now?
Yeah.
Here now.
Yeah.
So now I want you to recognize that this jar presents your life. Golf balls, it is important. It's your family, your friends, your health, and your passions. The pebbles are the other important. Your job, your home. The sand is everything else. It's just the small stuff. Now, if you put the sand in the jar first, you won't have room for the pebbles. You spend all your energy and time on the small stuff. You don't have time for all of it.
So if you, sorry. Okay. So if you watch this video, does it hit you emotionally?
Yeah, relatable.
It does, right? So you see the impact of also engaging the emotion part for your students and teaching them. So when we look at students, when we teach them, we must also remember that they have emotions. If you can relate certain things to how we are as a human being, this would be more impactful. So that brings me to just trying to be empathetic as an educator, because we are also living in very difficult times. First was COVID, and then we always have a lot of different issues that come up, and in our lives, students will also be exposed to a lot of difficulties, you know, in the studies, be it whether they don't have scholarship or the study difficulties or bullying and these sort of things. We have to always watch out for the well-being in addition to just delivering our lecture notes. Okay. Next, we also need to try to foster a growth mindset. Encourage students to view challenges and difficulties as opportunities to grow. We want them to be resilient, you know. We talk about the Gen Z, the strawberries generation. We see them already, you know, as we are teaching them, but we also have to try to make them realize, maybe share with them how life was, you know, for us as students and as growing up. You know, now they have a lot of things in front of them. For us, that time to write a PhD thesis, back in those times, some people even had to just go to the library to find all the information. Our time, we still have internet and all that. Now it's so easy. They even have AI, ChatGPT and all that. And yet, a lot of them still complain. So we have to share with them the difficulties that we went through and make them reflect, you know, help them to reflect so that they will grow and be resilient, you know. They have to believe in their abilities to also improve with effort and persistence. Resilience is actually key. We want to raise resilient students. And then we must not forget to praise the effort and perseverance, okay? Some people are just gifted, you know, they don't have to study so hard and yet they can score so well. So this is innate talent. But for those who actually put in effort to do well, we must acknowledge that. And we must actually celebrate small wins to build their confidence. This is very important to provide autonomy and choice. I always try to do this for my students. I would have open-ended questions and I would say, give you 5 topics. Okay, 5 topics. You choose which topics you're interested in. And then you come back to me and you can tell me, I give you leeway, your full autonomy to decide how you want to present your data or your presentation to me. You can talk to different people, you can use AI or whatever, but make sure that you always double check your information. And when you come back to me, you can present, you can do a PowerPoint presentation if you want. You can act it out, you can role play, whatever, as long as I have the answer. So I gave them that so that they can use their creativity and to come up with answers. And you'll be surprised to see the amount of effort they put in to make it work. And they are so happy and so involved and so engaged during lessons because they are delivering to you what they are best at. Okay. And then you can also incorporate interactive and fun activities. I think this, for most of us, we already know. Some people actually use gamification, Kahoot and these sort of things. And I already see that is being used, especially after COVID. And then we want to encourage curiosity and critical thinking, right? So it's a story about the rooster and the egg and the match, critical thinking to think, really, is this what the question wants? Why, how, and so forth? Not just to accept things for how they are. I think I have a last video. Let me try to make this work. Hold on.
Know that people in Africa shoot monkeys. He aims that gun right at the monkey. I can do it with a lower speed, and the monkey would be killed here, independent of the speed of the bullet. But always this part here, always exactly the distance that the monkey falls in that time. Greatest day. 5, 3, 2, 1. Feel private.
So you actually see how this professor tries to make his class interesting. Students, I bet, will wake up very early to try to join this lecture, right? I mean, I would. It's about showing, not just showing them. Yes, you see, you will, because I would. So it's such a dry subject with all numbers and you're just drawing things on the blackboard. But if you were to think about how do I actually make a dry subject interesting? For me, back to my anatomy and physiology, for me to try to teach physics students biology was a challenge. So what I did was I said, okay, so we're talking about muscles, we're talking about heart. Let's go out, do Tabata, okay? 1 hour. Instead of us sitting down and giving you lectures, let's go out, Tabata. And then we talk about monitoring the heart rate and what it means when you hear the loop doop, does it go faster? Why your breathing increase when you work out? Which part of the muscles are you working out? When you do sit-ups, when you carry weights or, body weights and stuff like that. So it's about making it relevant and not sticking to the usual way of doing things. And this is what I really enjoy, because I see that when you see that your students really enjoy it, you actually be more motivated to actually do all these extra things for them, right? And it's also important to provide real-time feedback. This is what we do in our mixed mode courses for postgraduate. So whenever we give them, the students, any assignment, we will assess and then we will give them a real-time feedback so that they have enough time to actually look through what they could have improved, or maybe something that they do not really understand, so that they can prepare themselves better for the next assignment or the next test or next examination. And a lot of students are actually very motivated to do this because they want to better themselves and they want to know where they fall short. So this is something that we can try to incorporate into our teaching. And here we celebrate achievements and progress. I've mentioned previously, even small wins, small achievements, it's good to always acknowledge and say, hey, well done, for doing this, or I appreciate the effort that you put in. It's always very important to do that. And this is something that is very relevant because I feel that as a student, I always felt that I was being judged and I was afraid to share my thoughts because I felt that people would always say, "Ah, that's a ridiculous idea. No, that's not true. Huh? This also you don't know. How can you not know?" I went through a lot of these things. So for me, it's very important to create a supportive and safe learning environment for my students. I want them to know that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to tell me wrong answers. I just want you to try. It's okay to be wrong. And in fact, as you go higher in your postgraduate studies, I don't want there to be like, oh, maybe this answer is completely wrong. No, it could be, maybe you're right, but just give me a good argument that is scientifically sound, because I believe that there are always two ways of looking at things, and what we may understand now may not be true in the next 5-10 years, with the advancements of science. So it's things that we can actually be open and discuss and not being afraid of being judged. I think that is very important for students. So now, with all that, we will move to what are the key elements that contribute to strong and impactful teaching portfolio. So just now we talked about, the importance of how we are as an educator that will impact the students. So now putting all that together as an educator, what makes you, the unique person that you are? We can now put all these things into a teaching portfolio, be it whether you want to apply for a job in another university or for an award. They want to see how your teaching impacts society and the students, of course. So first of all, the teaching philosophy is very important that you have one and not just follow around. Some universities, they do put that they have a certain teaching pedagogy to follow. Yes, for sure. But you as an educator can always inject a little bit of yourself teaching philosophy into your teaching style to your students, right? So it's a personal statement and a reflection of your core belief. Okay. And then you can also include evidence of student engagement and impact. So for me, when I apply for awards, I feel that it's also important for me to get feedback from my students, honest feedback. I will include testimonials from students and some feedback and, some assignment, test results. And, sometimes these are not tangible things, right? Engagement and impact. So it's more like that kind of feedback. And then you can also supplement with the results, seeing, you always have the best 3 students and the least good 3 students. And then you can see if they progress, you can actually supplement these sort of things into your teaching portfolio. And of course, your course materials and resources that align with your teaching philosophy and objectives. And innovative teaching strategies is something that is very useful now going forward, rather than passive teaching. A lot of people actually embrace this flipped classroom style, or using digital tools or gamification to create engaging learning experience. And I've always stressed about professional development and certification. Never ever forget that. I know that we work for the government, so we kind of progress along as we go, kind of according to time-based, or and then so often we forget that we need to always self-develop for ourselves, okay? For ourselves, go take up courses to learn new things, and then you have something nice to write in your CV, apart from doing basic research. I am also certified in this, and this is relevant to the industry. It's about packaging your real deal as a scientist and an educator. And then collaboration with colleagues or team teaching. I think most of us have that. But if you have collaboration with external universities, for example, I get invited by Kiel University, to deliver an online lecture, during COVID. These are the sort of things that you can write down, because it kind of expands your international visibility, right? And these are the things that are actually important that you can actually note down in your portfolio. And also it's important to reflect on your practices and self-assessment. I know this is very hard to actually put in a teaching portfolio, but you can always write that I do self-reflection from time to time, and I realize this, and I always try to be better in what, it's always good to acknowledge our own weaknesses because we are only human, right? And we want to better ourselves. And lastly, it's always the impact on the community as well as the academic community. For some people who are very heavy in teaching, not so much research, right? Then they would have a lot of impact here. For example, it's about establishing a new way to teach, micro-credential. How do you do this? How do you do that? And then you teach the other academic communities, share what you know, so that you help them to teach better or use new tools to teach, so that, we are relevant to society. And here, going back to all the points that I mentioned just now, it's important to have your clear teaching philosophy, and then you document by composing a clear and brief statement outlining your teaching approach. You have to remember it's always about how you sell yourself and what you write. And it's important not to overboast and say you're so good at this, but write in such a way that it comes from your heart, and you know that when people look at your writing, they know that you are not overselling yourself. And this is very important, because the moment when you boast and say you're so good at everything, this is the moment they will just put everything aside and say, this is just another one of the example. So it's important to just be a true self, acknowledge our limitations as well, okay? And use evidence of student learning or impactful data, when you have analysis of the students' results, you have graphs and things like that. Insert that into your portfolio, and highlight professional development, the courses that you take, whether it's physical workshop or online learning or micro-credentials, for example, supplement all this. Showcase innovation in teaching, as mentioned just now, using of new technologies and gamification tools, peer reviews and collaborations. Include testimonials, from your peers, as well as sometimes I do get letters from my collaborators, just to provide me a referee. They call that a referral letter, about what they think about my teaching style, or how I contribute to the curriculum development, or how I help their students, when they come over during summer for placement in my lab, how I help them in their career by involving them in writing layman articles. I do expose them to all these things that we kind of are not aware that is important, but it's actually aware as a scientist, we have to learn to write layman articles and to actually convey what we know to lay people. And this is something that I teach my students as well, indirectly. And finally, it's the impact to the community, whether it's academic or community as a whole. This is the final agenda that we all should have as an academic, right? Is giving back to society and how we can contribute to them. Okay, so now beyond the textbook, I would just like to know your thoughts about some of this. There's no right answers or wrong answers. It's just literally for me to get to know your thoughts about this. What does it mean to be an effective teacher beyond just delivering content? Anyone wants to try? Yes, to be able to be trustworthy so that your students trust you, that they can actually open up to you and share that they don't know. Okay, that's very good. The last thing we want is for a student to feel that they are worried you might judge them, or they are just fearful of being wrong. This is something that we try not to let the students have this sort of negative emotions and thoughts about us as educators, right? Anyone wants to try? Yes? Influence, inspire, and teach them how to learn and think rather than just spoon feeding them. Very good. So I see that we've got very good educators, right? Yes, providing a safer place to make mistakes is all just beyond textbooks and how we should be as lecturers, right? Okay, next, how can we ensure that teaching practices are inclusive and meet the needs of diverse learners? Real life situations, correct? Very good, thanks, Juan. So how can we ensure that teaching practices are inclusive? We talk a lot about inclusivity now, right? We have special needs learners. We have OKU, maybe wheelchair-bound learners, How can we ensure that? I think now a lot of universities are trying very hard to make it more OKU inclusive, right? I do definitely see that, and I think that's very good. And we also have to acknowledge that every student is different and they may need a slower pace. And if needed, maybe we can spend more time with these individual students, Yes, find out more about what they need, and then we try to see if we can be flexible to kind of adapt to the learning speed, and have one-to-one sessions. Sometimes it's okay because we are lecturers. I know that we are not paid extra for the time that we spend, but if we are indeed truly educators at heart, we will definitely do that. We will bother to find out who needs that sort of help and how can we help. Okay. So what role does failure play in the learning process, and how can teachers create environments where students feel comfortable with failure? Basically, how do we create a safe environment for them to make mistakes? What do you think? Yes, they learn from it. How do we make them feel safe and not feel like they are being judged, And secondly, when they make mistakes, how do we respond to that? Yeah, assurance is okay to be wrong. We have to always remember that. We cannot be like those old days where we are so particular about being right and this is the only right answer and not. No, we have to explain and we have to discuss. A lot of things need to be discussed. Yes, encouragement, yes. Right? So you see, it takes a lot to be educators just beyond what we think how educators should be and just delivering lectures, right? We want to be impactful in what we do. So how can we balance the need? Oh yeah, that's true. Stop making mistakes feel like crime. That is very, very true. That is also true. Making mistakes as students. Yes, it's a time that you can make mistakes and you learn. You are very right. Because if you don't learn, you don't make mistakes, you're never gonna be able to grow. Even with innovations, Thomas Edison, all these light bulbs and all that. It's true, many, many failures and many mistakes, but you learn what not to do and how not to be for you to finally get to the final step. Okay, that's very good. How can we balance the need for standardized assessments with the recognition of students' individual strengths and learning styles? In school, in universities, everything is standardized. You either make it or you just don't. You either get your A's or your B's, and if you don't get an A in this subject, you cannot go into university for this subject. This is so rigid. So how can we balance the need for standardized assessments? So how do we have authentic assessment, Dr. Aizat? That's a very good suggestion. So assessment methods should vary, but you see, we are so tied to this stringent way of assessing students. We give them questions, and then all of them need to answer the same questions, or if not, at most, they have 5 questions, choose 4. But then the assessments is basically the same, right? And then we assess them, and then we expect them to give a certain answers. Peer evaluation. Okay, would you mind to elaborate on that, peer elaboration? Sometimes it's awkward when we offer gifts. Oh, okay. Well, gifts or maybe a small reward, right? You're talking about. Yeah, that's also a good way to motivate them. Yes, project or problem or project-based learning. Yeah, that's very good because then they will have very different ways to answer the questions, based on the experience or the perception, it's about a wider perspectives rather than just basic standard answers. Yes, soft skills. Soft skills is so important. We always forget that, and this is something that's underdeveloped in our education system. And yeah, I'm a product of that as well. That's why I said when I went to the UK, I always felt that I wanted to be like that, to be able to say anything confidently. And even if it's wrong, you're still so confident that people will buy your answers. So for me, it's a skill, and I still want to learn that. So that's very good. Thanks for all your tries. And how can teachers encourage critical thinking and creativity in students while adhering to structured curriculum? We are still having structured curriculum. Any idea? Any thoughts? Oh, yes, it's actually very important to get their opinion. You're right. And then they feel heard, and then they feel more motivated, right? In class yeah, you are so right. This is one thing that we should all learn, to just not talk and tell them what to do, but to listen and get their opinions, because it's good when they feel that their opinions matter, right? Okay, next. In what ways can technology enhance or detract from the learning experience in the classroom? There are pros and cons. What do you think? So when it comes to enhancement, we all know about that, right? Using all these Kahoot gamification and all that to enhance your learning experience. But what do you think about the limitations when you use technology in a classroom? Do you think there's any potential limitations or any cons to that? Or do you think that it's only all just enhancements or pros? They rely too much on AI. Yes, it's like very little human to human interaction, right? And then they become so dependent on AI, dependent on technology, that they lose that soft skills, the human to human touch and the human to human communication. Yes. And they cannot think anymore. Everything is generated by AI. Right. You're very right. That's true. Well done. You see, you're all really good educators. No feedback is given. Well, you can give feedback, right? Like if you were to use gamification tools, you can the lecturers can always choose to provide a feedback and get the right answers. So I think it really depends on how it is done or how the game is being designed. But yeah, thanks for trying. And here, how do we know when a student has truly mastered a concept rather than just memorizing it for a test? Okay, practical assessment. Yes. So have you seen students who are so good in the examination, straight A students, but the moment they hit the lab, you don't see that being reflected on paper, and in real life, you just don't see it, right? Okay, the concept. Yes, it's always about solving real life problem. That's how you know whether they understand the subject deeply. When technology is, okay. Thank you for the clarification on the feedback. Okay, last one. How can we create a classroom environment that promotes both academic excellence and emotional well-being? Remember, I mentioned it's not just about academic excellence. It's about also the emotional well-being, about the student himself, because we are all human beings at the end of the day, and we all have our different burdens that we may or may not bring to class, right? Talk to them as Gen Z as well. What does that mean? Like, would you care to elaborate? Talk to them as, you mean to talk to them even in the millennials, to talk to them like Gen Zs, or would you like to elaborate on that? Learn that. Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Yes, I've recently learned about this. Learn that language. You're right. Yeah, yeah. Yes, understanding their mindset and where they came from, and probably the upbringing is a bit different, right, in this current generation. And then learn to get to know them, understand them, what makes them tick, what makes them, angry, what makes them motivated, and things like that. Yeah, spend time on TikTok. Oh, very good. You all have got very good responses. Yeah, build classroom relationship first. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a relationship between you and the students. If they trust you, they are able to open up to you and talk to you about their weaknesses. They're not afraid of being judged. So you see, overall, everything, many things are just beyond the textbook. Many things are just beyond, all the checklists of what makes a good educator. It's a lot more than that. It's basically is you being you as an educator, what you stand for in life, what's your philosophy in life, what's your philosophy in teaching, and then just bring that to the classroom, and you will be a very, very good educator and a teacher. Okay, so my last slide. There is no right way to teach, I believe, right? It is about growth, about understanding, and about doing the best that you can for those that you teach. Okay, and science and innovation needs to find a scientist, regardless of gender. I'm saying this because I'm into female empowerment and also equality, right? We talk about this. And so we respect everyone for their abilities and the potential, and never once should we discriminate anyone just because they are different. Okay, when it becomes an emotional battle and you feel like you're losing, and I feel that many of us go through this, right? Sometimes it's getting grants and we don't get grants, but we have certain KPI to fulfill and we struggle because we have so many workload and just feel like, oh, you're losing it. Some of us have got kids, family, burden, problem, issues, Always remember that a successful person is one who can build a firm foundation with the bricks that others have thrown at him or her. Okay, so never ever give up. Try your best, give your best, and then you will be so proud of yourself when you come out on the other side of your hardship. Okay, and lastly, I also want to kind of advocate for kindness in leadership, also mainly because of the things that I have been through. Being an academic, I was once also a young researcher. Well, now I'm not so young, but I'm also not so old. But starting out young is difficult because you kind of get not so nice treatment, I would say. You don't get treated well. People look at you and say that, you're so young. I don't believe what you say. Your words don't carry weights because you are, just starting out and stuff like that. You do hear these kind of things, but you have to pull through and believe in yourself, right? So I advocate for kindness in leadership just because I've been through a lot of all these things. And I believe that when we are kind, when we show that we care for the students, this is when we start to see change, right? People don't respond, people don't respond to meanness, to all negative things. People don't respond well to that. But when you're kind and you bring positivity into the life of people, you will see how they open up and you'll see positive changes happening. Okay, so with that, thank you for your time. I'm happy to take any question, and I apologize for all the hiccups with the videos. I hope that you have gained something today. And yeah, thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Unchen. And that is a very inspiring talk. And I'd like to summarize a bit before I pass the session to everyone. And I also want to thank everyone to the very engagement session, giving the feedbacks. So when we first read the biography of Dr. Unchen Ain, you would see her as a researcher, and a typical researcher who would excel in research, doing good science and so on. But somehow this session that was being delivered through the way you allowed a safe space to provide feedback and so on, somehow embodied the spirit of a true lecturer or academic or a teacher. And that's very hard to kind of strike that balance between being somebody who is a researcher, at the same time doing our core work, which is a teacher or a lecturer. And being a lecturer is not just about giving and sharing or addressing the intellectual part, but also building character. And I think that's one of the philosophy of Dr. Un. And when you mentioned, so maybe I'll summarize four of the components and how you maneuvered or the narrative of this whole research. Initially, you brought us on the journey of what shaped your character and what made you who you are today. And it shows how much that all these experiences kind of shaped us, and we acknowledge those kind of negative experience that we went through, but somehow change it to positive. And then you showed how you are be able to translate that into your teaching philosophy, how you wanted change into you yourself, and then how you change your students. And the third is you shared this through your teaching, and you gave us practical approach how to do that. You gave us some concepts that we truly appreciate, and hopefully we will later on apply it in our classrooms. And finally, some of the strategies. And I think I would also want to highlight the things that was being shared by Dr. Un just now were some of the elements for assessment in any kind of academic awards. Even for us, Doctor, we call it the Takrim Award. We follow those requirements quite similar to the AAN and ACRI. So whenever in our university level, if we follow those, hopefully they will be the same thing, the components for the teaching portfolio that will be sent for the national level awards. And you've given some of the tips and tricks, and I think if we follow, we would be able to get good results, inshallah. So with that, I would like to invite and open the session for Q&A, feedbacks, anything that you've learned, and then hopefully we can use and utilize the session to learn as much as possible. Anyone, if you would like to post your comments or questions in the comment box or the chat box, as well as you can unmute your mic and directly ask questions and provide feedback to Dr. Un Chern Eng. Please welcome anyone.
You can ask any questions. It doesn't need to be related to teaching or whatsoever. We can share.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning, Dr. Un.
Hello, Fatima.
Yeah, hello. So my question is, it seems like you have put out a lot of effort in order to develop your materials, as well as when you try to address the student. Of course, when you want to insert all the interactive elements, I guess all of those takes a lot of time. So, based on your experience, how long does it take for you to develop everything? And how do you balance that with other responsibilities, administrative, publication, and things like that? Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks, Fatima, for your question. So I think that's one thing about me is I am so used to multitasking. I think that is a very useful trait and skill to have. So I think it also comes with the fact that I don't like to be similar or the same as others. So when I develop anything, I am actually very proud, and I have a lot of pride in what I do. So when I develop my course material, I just want it to be fun, So I actually find joy in that. And when I do that, I don't realize how much time I've put into it. Although I try not to strive for perfection, but I still find joy in doing so. And then I also have the other responsibilities, like, you say administrative and all these things. But somehow I kind of do everything in such a way that I can multitask. So when I have time, sometimes I will wake up at night, and then I'll start to work. I mean, I'm not trying to say that this is a good work-life balance. It's just how I work, because I still want to be able to give my best. And, I don't just want to take a checklist and say that, okay, I promise you I'll do this, then I tick. But for me, if I cannot deliver my best, then I just said no, because for me, like I said, branding is so important. I don't want to be known as a lecturer who's like, oh, she said that she can do this, and then in the end she doesn't deliver. So I think with that, it always comes down to who you are as a person and what you're proud of. So for me, in that sense, that I would always, no matter what, try to find time to slot everything in. And I really enjoy it. I think I enjoy just being an educator as a scientist. I'm lucky that I love what I do.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Yeah, this regarding the lecturer-student relationship. So sometimes we try to be close to the students. Of course, we would like to be their companion in their academic undertaking as well as in shaping their character, right? So sometimes we become so close with the student, the professional relationship line gets blurred. And sometimes it gets too much when, for example, the student gets our phone number, for example, and then they start to contact us outside of the working hour. So how do you navigate that tricky kind of relationship?
So that's a very, very good point. So that is also something that's very important for me because I put boundaries. I want my students to feel safe that they can come to me and talk about anything that bothers them. Like, for example, during COVID, I do find out that some of the students have depression and they were like trying to take their lives. But then, of course, some students are just not comfortable telling me, but there are other students who just come to me and say, you know what, I tell you this, and then, I'll approach them. So we have that sort of relationship. But at the same time, I put a boundary, I don't give them my personal phone number. That's the thing. I say anything that is work related, you can write me. But if it's urgent, I do have a separate work number and a personal phone number. So that is how I put boundary. And social media, the only thing I have is LinkedIn, to be honest. And I don't add students on LinkedIn. So I never ever want to share my social media account or have them as my friends, and because I feel that would just blur the lines. That is just personally me. I still want to retain that professional relationship where I can.
All right, thank you so much, Dr.
Hi, Doctor. Thank you
Hello.
for your inspiring sharing. I just want to ask you, since the topic here is about the portfolio, since you have a lot of experience, how actually you translate your experience into your portfolio of teaching? Is it in your resume? Is it in your LinkedIn, or you make a website just to showcase your portfolio in your teaching?
That's a very good thing. So I was told that you should actually have your own website. Like I say, so many people say, how come you don't have your social media or website to showcase your achievements and all these things? For me, I just prefer to lay low. There are pros and cons of that. So for me, I only have my teaching portfolio for award, or if you want to apply for anything that requires a teaching portfolio. But other than that, we don't really have an active portfolio. So by right, your LinkedIn, if you are a pure educator, for me, I'm still a researcher with the teaching responsibilities. So if you are a true educator, some people go right in the teaching track, I understand. So this is where you maybe want to showcase all your teachings, your achievements and everything on your LinkedIn, and by right you can. It's just that I have not made full use of my LinkedIn as well, and I should rightly be doing that, to be honest, because this is where you get more visibility, from just beyond Malaysia. So what you've just mentioned just now, if you can, you should do it, because I was told that I should do it. It's just that I never do it because I value my privacy a lot. And I know maybe if I do it, I might go further. But I think I'm just happy with where things are at the moment, because I value my privacy so much right now. So at the moment, with all this internet and globalization, everything becomes blur. I do not really want to put my life out there, and then having people come up to me, strangers come up to me. So I rather not have all that. So I think it's personal preference.
There's
Does
one
that
question
answer
from
okay?
the
Oh, sorry.
yeah, what you were saying, Doctor?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask, does that answer her question?
Right.
Yes, you have a question, Dr. Muhammad Ashraf?
There was one question posted in the chat box from Muhammad Hakimi, Dr. Muhammad Hakimi. Doctor, how can we make students understand our boundaries? I think this would be a follow-up to the feedback that you mentioned just now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's human nature. The closer they feel that they are to you, the more they think they can treat you as a friend. And then you realize that, hey, there's there's no more this respect element, they think that they can talk to you. It did happen to me before, and honestly, I didn't like it because it went like, oh, doctor, can you help me with this? And after that, it became talking about their personal life and all. Sometimes I choose not to respond to that. I will only respond if it's work related. So then I would just tell them, if it's something related to your personal life, I don't mind knowing if it's something that is an issue that, affects your studies, but I don't need to know a lot of details about it, unless I know that the student is matured enough and he knows, where to draw the boundaries. Because I know for some students, they just can't. The moment they think that they're your friends, they step all over you, So I think it's very individual based. I also do have students where I can talk to them just about anything, about their life, about the problems they go through at home. And I do have students like that. So it's very individual based. And then there's one about sharing postgraduate supervision. Can I understand the IIUM, you're mostly teaching or?
Yeah, we do have postgraduate supervision also. Yep.
Okay, so with postgraduate supervision is a bit different because there are more matured students already, right? So it's about you being the scientist, and actually, to be honest, they look up to you if you're the supervisor, right? How you treat them and how you mentor them and how you supervise them actually have a lasting impact, on them as a scientist. So we have to be very careful with what we say to them and how we want to bring some thoughts and how we want to encourage them to be good scientists. Always be positive about our feedback and our comments, right? Because if they are actually inspired by you, they will actually go, a few hundred steps ahead of you. But the moment they don't trust you or they think that you don't guide them well, this is where everything will spiral, because supervisor and student relationship is very fragile. It can be very fragile, but it's one that needs a lot of balance, right, between the two, compared to an undergraduate just sitting in class kind of student and you, because that is more of a more detachment compared to a supervisor and a postgrad student.
Before we go to I think there's two more questions on the chat box. Maybe I want to return back to the discussion regarding the portfolio. So you yourself, you mentioned you don't have that active portfolio showcase through a public domain, maybe internet, for example. But maybe the question would be looking at the portfolio where specifically being sent to for those awards and achievements. So how do you have that being developed throughout, or somehow how do you work around that?
Okay, very good question. I don't know about IIUM, but in USM, we have a system called HCMS, where we input a lot of things inside as whatever that we have achieved, whether it's certification, whatever, we always actively put that in. Whether you deliver keynote or you go and teach here and there, co-sharing, teaching, whatever, we upload that. The only thing that I don't have active are things like feedback, testimonials. So if I want to apply for an award or I want to have a nicer CV, I would actually write to professors from maybe other universities, because visibility is so important. You would want to get colleagues that are of international setting, not from Malaysia but elsewhere, to show that you have international visibility. Ask them to write for you a testimonial or a referral letter, and then you just provide that link and put in your CV. That's what I do. I put in my CV or my write-ups whenever I apply to an award. And then that is how I supplement all these things that are non-tangible. The tangible stuff are all online in our HCMS system. Every year we have to update that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so back to the question in the chat box about not sharing your phone number. Has it since you started lecturing, or it changed somewhere along the way?
Since I started, I already put that boundary because my supervisors always did that to me, and I continued that.
So how to encourage ourselves to continuously become motivated in a toxic working environment?
Oh, that is hard, but I can tell you how I overcame that. So I went to Singapore for 2 years thinking that, oh, Singapore is the best place, do science, everything is so advanced, they have money and everything. In Malaysia is always stagnant, no money, cannot move. And then when you try to do something, people are always putting you down, your professors are always telling you you're not good enough, everything negative that you're always hearing, and then just feel like, oh, this is not nice, how do I grow from here? It's always so negative. So I've always thought that going to Singapore, maybe everything is better. But I went to Singapore and I realized that it's not any better. The grass is always greener on the other side. So at the end of the day, it's about being grateful. Gratitude is the key word. I came back and I learned to look at things a positive way. I acknowledge that there are some limitations in Malaysia and some things that I cannot change. How do I work around it? Toxic environment, they exist. I've seen now. They exist everywhere. The worst part is if you're a foreigner and you are in a foreign land and you're in a toxic environment, you are worse off than being a local in a toxic environment because you have total no say as a foreigner if you are in a toxic environment. And the moment you lose your job, you lose everything as a foreigner, right? I'm saying because you rely on your employment pass. So with that in mind, going back to Malaysia, I learned to appreciate all the not so nice things, all the difficult things that I, used to complain about. I learned to work around it. I look at things, what are the positive aspects of it? And then I learned to focus on the positive aspects, and then I build around it and I focus on that, and I try not to look at the negative sides. Because in life, wherever you go, you always see these negative things. There's no such thing as an ideal workplace now that I've seen it.
Okay, so there's one more question. How do you get feedback from your student regarding their learning experience at the end of the semester? Is it on paper or digital form?
Oh, yes, we do ask on feedback. So it's part of our course when we actually develop the course, it's part of our course module that we do ask them for feedback. So it's a form that we actually came up with all the questions and we agreed, we give it to the students and then they give us the physical form and then we just key in. So we do follow up with the students and of course we make them anonymous lah.
Okay, yeah, for Dr. Nora Senam, thank you so much, Prof, for such a motivating advice. Maybe I've also got one question, maybe two questions. One is wanted to ask because one of the core or teaching philosophy that you apply is about inculcating the students to have that curiosity and critical mindset. What do you see ChatGPT as something that hinders them to gain this kind of ability? Have you had that kind of experience and how do you address it?
Oh, yes, I do. I see that in my postgraduate students, they know that they have ChatGPT. So when I even ask them to write a thesis and then they send me a paper or the thesis chapters and I see that, I said, that is ChatGPT. Number one, your references don't match. Number two, you do know that ChatGPT has some kind of format that, you can easily just pick up and you say it's ChatGPT. And they stop questioning things. They just take a whole lump sum and then they just put in. And this is the issue that we see right now with the current batch of students that we have. And we have to kind of be very careful. You have to teach them about plagiarism, number one. Number two is about thinking. You think anymore? Teach them that, you can use ChatGPT to give you ideas. But after that, you still need to dig and see how true things are. I think it's just about educating the current generation because this is a very new thing and people are just so hyped about it and they think that ChatGPT gives you all the answers, but it may not necessarily be correct. So sometimes I prefer not to have anything done online. I'd like to do face-to-face lectures, to be honest, and then I ask questions and you tell me what you think. It's okay to be wrong rather than an online session where they can ChatGPT and give me the answers.
Thank you very much. I think last question from me. So let's say now the participants here are not just young researchers. It's a mix of those who are young, maybe less than 10 years, and those more than 10 years in teaching and academia. Now, let's say after watching and hearing and joining this course or webinar, people are inspired. But unfortunately, those who are inspired are a bit more older, 10 years. So somehow they feel they want to return to a path that you want to learn, but somehow there's expectation. So how do you you want to undergo this journey of learning, but with some of the expectation that you should have done this earlier in your path as an academician, what would be your advice so that we don't feel that, oh, I'm already late and I should have been. Yeah, please.
That's a very, very good question. I honestly think that it's never too late to be inspired by how other people do it. That's why I love to go out and see the world and see how other people teach or do their science. Then I get inspiration. I think the good thing about us educators is because we are educators, we are also not so rigid with our mindset. We are happy to adapt along the way. And I think this is the good trait about being educators, right? And it's never too late to actually change the way we see things, just like how technology had advanced. And now I have to learn about TikTok. You know, I don't even have TikTok. I'm like learning, going for CDE courses, how to do short videos, how to make short videos. TikTok, what does it do? I'm not that old, but I'm also not that young, but I'm also learning what is this. So I think it's about the willingness to be agile. Agile is the keyword, to be agile in your learning and to adapt.
Yep. So thank you to the two A's, agile and being adapt. Thank you very much. So before we end the session, I would like to, because you mentioned just now about assessing students individually. So having that and alternative assessments. And inshallah, we will be having, like to promote our upcoming webinar. Allow me just to share my screen to all of the participants. So we will have our upcoming, oh, not this one. It should be, yeah, it should be on the 2nd of December. So we will have Associate Professor Dr. Johari Othman from RMIT University in Vietnam. This is a webinar, so he'll be joining us from Vietnam, which is we'll be learning about how to validate and conduct reliability testing in alternative assessment instruments or tools, so that whenever we approach or address students using alternative assessments, it should also be valid and reliable and in line with the learning outcomes and so on, inshallah. So hopefully we address all students' requirements, doing all the ways or approaches for assessment. So I think if there's no other questions, we have covered a very interesting, engaging, and inspiring session. Hopefully, we all can learn a lot, and I believe everyone has learned a lot. And we once again, on behalf of the Center for Professional Development and, and IIUM, we thank you, Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Chern In. I'm not sure whether I pronounce it correctly. Dr. Chern In, is it In?
Yes, very good pronunciation. You got it right. First try.
Thank you. So thank you very much. And everyone has been putting the emoji throughout the whole session, especially when you gave certain advices that were, not to say mind-blowing, but they were relatable. And I think practical, and we can apply it, inshallah. So thanks again. So there's a lot of love for you, Dr.
Thank you. A lot of love back to you. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Dr. Muhammad Ashraf Rostam. You've been
Thank
a
you so
great
much.
moderator.
Let's switch on our camera, and let's record this as a memory for us. So I invite everyone to switch on your camera, and then we'll take a group photo so that we capture this memory. Okay, allow us to get some. We'll allow some. So let me just. Who's gonna help, Sister Hana or Sister Uzma? Are you gonna take the photo? Sister Hana, are you there?
Boleh.
Okay. So dah ambil gambar ke? Would you like to stop the slide? Okay. Yeah. Oh, over to you, Sister Hana. Everyone, please switch on your cameras.
Page 1, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I've removed the spotlight.
Page 2, 1, 2, 3. Page 3. Page 2. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much once again to all the participants. There's a lot here, professors, associate professors. Thank you very much. Once again, we will see you all in the next upcoming webinar on the 2nd December. Thank you again, Dr. Un Chen In, for the session. Very engaging and very helpful.
Thank you.
Let's adjourn with Tasbih Kafrah and Surah Tu'as. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you, everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you, Dr. Ashraf. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tijani. So we'll end the session. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam
Alright, bye.
warahmatullah.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you.
Yeah, thank you, CPD. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.